I mean, it's very difficult to define.
I think I would define the humanities as a kind of social science.
I think the humanities is what helps define us as human.
Well, the humanities is the study of what is good, what is the good. And it's just, what is good? I mean, Socrates said, know thyself, right? And it sort of is about, what is good? What are we doing here? What is good? What's it all about? And there's really no limit.
Since I'm from Germany, and in Germany humanities has a different name. It's called Geisteswissenschaften, which is the sciences of the spirit, really, which is actually something I, in a way, like better, because in a way today's humanities are not about the human anymore, but just the human. And I think that's something interesting which has been developing lately. So humanities are not just the classical disciplines of philology and history and the different languages, but I think they really think about the status of the human in a changing environment, really, and really being in interaction with disciplines that are not in the humanities exactly, like the sciences and other disciplines, really. And I think that's something where the Kaplan Center is very interesting in that sense, that they actually foster this kind of work that goes into different fields. So in that sense, I really think of myself really more of a scientist of the spirit. I can always question what spirit is, but I mean, spirit really represents itself, I think, or manifests itself, not just in the human form, but I think in various forms, in various texts, discourses, Gestalten, as the German says.
Do you think about the different fields included in the humanities? It's sort of like a broad subset of the liberal arts. You've got like religion, philosophy, political science, history, and literature, and these are all things of art and inquiry and questions. And the humanities seeks to answer questions about what it means to be human.
It is kind of a fusion between art and language and science all at once. You can have a humanities class that is a history and language class all at once, or a history and classics class, or classics and art, and I think that's really what defines it, is that it's this kind of circle in a Venn diagram where everything meets. It's just the combination of all studies in some way.
So I signed up to be a humanities minor for a while, and I took some humanities classes, like one on torture, and was a political theory class about torture and tolerance and pain. So that was a great class. And even though I'm not a humanities minor anymore, I'm still majoring in two fields of the humanities with English and classics. I did the Kaplan Humanities Scholars Program freshman year, which was a series of seminars with other freshmen about comedy, and so we looked at classical comedy, and then we moved into second quarter marriage and read different readings and perspectives on marriage and how it's changed over time. And I really enjoyed the program. I thought it was stimulating and rigorous, and just had great discussions in the class.
I mean, as a student, I started out, in German. The German system is different than the American system. You always, as an undergraduate, pick a major, so to speak, and I immediately picked German literature with a minor in philosophy and English literature. And all you do is taking classes in these fields. And but I think my initial interest was always being reading texts, basically. That's always been, my training has been in philology and reading and dealing with text and with literature. And I think in my grade studies I started venturing out and seeing how literature, the field of written text, relates to other fields as well. And, although my dissertation was still very much a philological project on a Swiss writer, and rather myopic reading of some of his early texts on a Swiss writer called Walser. And I think only my second project here at Northwestern I really tried to bring various discourses, so to speak, in conversation from the perspective of a literary scholar, who I am. So, in a way, I'm always rooted, and I think it's always my approach, I think, to humanities, coming from the perspective of a literary scholar, really. And that's always my interest in the first place. That's what I teach too. I teach in mostly German, the German department, and in the comparative literature department. And in these departments, as the name indicates, it's about text in the first place, but nevertheless I always try to come up with other forms of discourse as well.
I was in the Kaplan Humanities program for freshmen, and I did that for 2 quarters, and it's basically 2 classes every quarter. And the first quarter was like classics and English, and then the second quarter was more of a history and English kind of fusion. And both were really great. The professors were great. I loved the material we talked about, and it was interesting to see things from different perspectives, coming from different departments, and being able to write about it and explain what it meant from so many different viewpoints.
Well, the great thing about this scholars program is that from the teacher's point of view is that it's team taught with 3 different professors. And so, you've got these friendships with professors in other departments and programs, but in normal course of life, you don't have that much of an opportunity to collaborate with them, really. So this was a chance for us to collaborate on an issue that we found interesting and bring resources from very different fields. So, the overall theme of the Kaplan Institute was the good society. And then our proposal was, what is the function of comedy? What is the social function of comedy? How does comedy, as theater, as literature, as poetry, as cinema, as television, contribute to forming a good society? So here was an English scholar, who's a scholar of Shakespeare. Here was a classic scholar, and who's also a scholar of theater. And here's me, who does Italian literature, and Italian theater in particular. So it was a chance for us to kind of share and think freely and toss in ideas about this topic.
I wanted to make my college experience things that I loved to do rather than things that I thought would be useful after graduation. So I just found that I got along better with the other students. The professors were more interesting and stimulating and enthusiastic about their subjects than other classes I had taken, and I just enjoyed it so much, and that's why.
I've always been kind of interested in writing, and I thought that class offered me a nice way to use my writing skills as well as my skills in other departments. I wanted to also improve my writing and be able to write from perspectives that weren't my own, and I think that the humanities really helped do that.
Well, one of the nice things about this Kaplan Scholars Program is that you've got a group of students who are applying to get in the program. And so you get students who are really motivated and who sit forward in class and really take an interest in these issues and care about them. And that makes a complete difference from a student who's kind of slouching in the back and waiting for it to get over, So that's 90% of the work right there. And so you're having a really lively exchange with students about their thoughts, because that's ultimately who we're learning from, because everything we think, we can bounce it out there, but it's got to come back, so.
It's such a long time ago, I don't even remember. I don't know. I mean, there's one biographical snafu because in Germany, my parents wanted me to study law or medicine or something like that, and I missed the date to sign up for the exam. Back then you had to pass an exam to get into med school, and I missed that, unconsciously, on purpose. So then I decided, okay, now I'm going to literature and see how that works. And the first year I was not very impressed by the work that has been done. It was at German university. And then I met a professor who really changed my view of what can be done in the academic field of literary studies. And from then on, it was clear to me that I'm going to stay in this field, against all these resistances that were imposed by me, especially my parents at the time.
On it.
Well, this is a funny question. The very idea that you have to kind of justify the humanities is a little bit strange to me. It's like, well, what else are you supposed to be doing? I would think it makes more sense you should justify the other things that everybody thinks is so important. But, to me, the humanities is sort of how you approach the world. I mean, it's like how do you see things? How do you respond to things? How do you get to know yourself and other people? How do you understand the place you're living, the place and time you're living in, if not through the humanities?
I think for people who are, let's say, who are majors in business or economics or in the natural sciences, I think, it gives them a certain context of what they're doing.
On top of perspective, I think it's a nice symmetry with everything else that you can study at Northwestern. So whether you're studying science or economics or art history, there's always a way to incorporate some kind of humanities class into that, and it will definitely change the way you view the study that you already are taking, and vice versa. So it's important to kind of have that balance. And to be able to incorporate both things into your life, because the world isn't just cells and molecules, and it isn't just art and music all the time either.
I'm really doing this because it's what I want to do, and I don't, it's always my obsession doing these things, and then I think about how can this be, so to speak, applied to something else, and that's what I tell all the students. I mean, first you have to go where your passions are really, and that's what my PhD advisor told me. Think about it, a thesis for my PhD. Mm-hmm. And then later on, you do, how does this fit into? Of course, today's job market, you want to think about how this is, useful and so on. But first of all, you have to go where your passions are. That's what I've done always. And like I said, I'm not a good salesperson in that sense. That this is, will broaden your horizons and all this. It's all very cliche to me, and that's probably true to a certain degree. But in the end, if you're not interested in it, then it will never be interesting for anyone.
I think as I've taken more humanities classes, and I've sort of changed my mind about how useful they are in terms of finding a job after graduation. Because when you think about the fields that are labeled as practical, like economics or poli-sci, you really don't use those skills too much after graduation. And what's important is being able to think about lots of different things and to be able to adapt to new problems as they're presented to you, and to have many different skills. And taking classes in the humanities helps build those skills, being able to think about different perspectives, and it also really helps your writing skills, and communication is so important in today's world.